It was Valentine's Day in 2013 in Pretoria, South Africa. The air was warm, the kind of humid stillness that clings to your skin in a gated estate where the wealthy hide from the world. Inside a sleek, modern villa, the lights were low, the curtains drawn. A 9mm parabellum pistol lay under a bed, its grip worn, its barrel cold. In the early hours before dawn broke, 4 shots shattered the silence. The sound echoed through the Silverwoods country estate, sharp and final, like a scream cut short. Neighbors stirred, their hearts racing, their phones lighting up with calls to security. But inside that house, a woman lay dying. River Steenkamp, 29, a model and a law graduate. She was slumped in a locked bathroom cubicle, blood pooling beneath her body pierced by hollow point bullets. And the man who fired those shots stood outside the door, his prosthetic legs off, his voice breaking as he screamed her name. Oscar Pistorius, the Blade Runner, South Africa's golden son, the first double amputee to race in the Olympics, a symbol of triumph over impossible odds. He claimed he thought she was an intruder, a shadow in the night. But the prosecution saw something. They saw something darker. A man consumed by rage. A relationship fractured by jealousy. A trigger pulled not in fear, but in fury. What drives a hero to become a killer? How does a man who inspired millions fire 4 bullets through a locked door? And why, even now, do we still not know the truth? This is Beneath the Rift. Let's step into the shadows. Before we go further, a warning. This episode contains graphic descriptions of violence, murder, and domestic abuse. It's not suitable for all listeners. Please exercise discretion. And this story is based on real events, drawn from court records, police reports, and credible news sources. All names and details are accurate, with no fictionalization unless explicitly noted where sources lack specifics. This is a true crime podcast, not a courtroom. Our purpose is to uncover, to question, to reflect, and to honor those whose lives were stolen. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's begin. Pretoria, South Africa is a city of contradictions. Jacaranda trees bloom purple against government buildings, their petals carpeting the streets. Gated estates like Silverwoods, where the elite live behind high walls and electric fences. 6 minutes from townships where poverty bites deep. So in 2013, South Africa was still grappling with its post-apartheid identity. Racial tensions, economic disparity, and a crime rate that kept fear alive. Violent crime was rampant. 45 murders a day, according to 2013 police statistics. Burglaries, hijackings, and home invasions were so common that many slept with guns nearby. A grim necessity in a nation on edge. This is the world Oscar Pistorius lived in. a double amputee sprinter born without fibulas, his legs amputated at 11 months old. So by 26, he was a global icon. The Blade Runner, whose carbon fiber prosthetics carried him to Paralympic gold and Olympic history in 2012. His story was one of defiance, a man who ran faster than fate. But on February 14, 2013, Valentine's Day, that story shattered. And Pretoria became the stage of a tragedy that gripped the world. How does a hero fall so far? How does a gated estate become a crime scene? Oscar Pistorius and Reeva Steenkamp was South Africa's golden couple. He was 26, a Paralympic champion, his face on billboards, his name synonymous with triumph. She was 29, a law graduate and model, her blonde hair and bright smile gracing magazines and TV screens. She starred in Tropica Island of Treasure, okay, that's a reality show, and advocated against gender-based violence, a cause so close to her heart in a country where femicide rates were among the highest globally. They met in November 2012, introduced at a Johannesburg event. By Valentine's Day 2013, they'd been dating for about 3 months. Only 3 months, that's not a lot. Their relationship splashed across tabloids. They called themselves Baba and Angel in WhatsApp messages, 90% of which were loving, according to police captain Francois Mola at trial. But the other 10% told a different story. Arguments, tensions, fear. I'm scared of you sometimes and how you snap at me, Reeva wrote in a January 2013 message, read in quote, "You have picked on me excessively." So to the world, they were perfect. But inside Pistorius' villa, something seemed to be breaking. It was just after 3 a.m. on February 14, 2013. That's early morning, hey. Pistorius' villa in Silverwoods was quiet. The only sounds, the hum of air conditioning and the distant bark of a dog. Reeva Steenkamp was staying over, because their Valentine's Day plans, a quiet dinner, gifts unopened, still fresh. Pistorius later testified he walked to close the balcony door, bringing in 2 fans. He heard a noise from a bathroom, a window sliding open. So, according to him, it was like in a country where home invasions were daily fear. His mind raced. So without his prosthetic legs, feeling vulnerable on his terms, he grabbed his 9mm Parabellum pistol from under his bed. He moved down the dark hallway, gun raised, shouting for Reeva to call the police, but she didn't answer. He claimed he thought she was still in bed, unaware she'd gone to the bathroom. At the locked toilet cubicle door, he heard a sound, a creak, maybe a shift. Convinced an intruder was inside, he fired 4 times, the hollow point bullets ripping through the wood. And then silence. Pistorius called out for Reeva. No response. He went back to the bedroom, checked the bed, the curtains, the floor. She was gone. Panic rising, he grabbed a cricket bat, smashing the toilet door open, and found her. Reeva Steenkamp, slumped in the cubicle, blood streaming from wounds in her hip, arm, and head. She was still alive, barely. He carried her downstairs, sobbing, praying, but she died in his arms. That was his story. But, the prosecution saw it differently. They pointed to River's phone in the bathroom, her jeans on the floor, signs of an argument. Neighbors heard screams before the shots, not after. So, question is, was it a mistake born of fear or a murder fueled by rage? So, the call came before dawn. Neighbors in Silver Woods, woken by gunshots and screams, dialed estate security. Dr. Johann Stipp, a radiologist living nearby, heard the shots and rushed to Pistorius' villa. He found Pistorius kneeling over River, crying. "I shot her. I thought she was a burglar." Stipp, a trained doctor, tried to revive her, but her pulse was gone and her eyes fixed. Police arrived at 3:55 a.m., led by Detective Hilton Botta. The scene was chaos. Blood on the bathroom tiles, a shattered toilet door, a cricket bat nearby. Pistorius was hysterical, repeating his intruder story. But Botta noticed details that didn't add up. River's phone in the bathroom, a holster on her side of the bed. No signs of forced entry. Botta's initial investigation was sloppy. Officers walked through the scene without protective boots, missing a bullet in a toilet bowl. But the evidence was clear. River Steenkamp was dead, and Oscar Pistorius had pulled the trigger. The Pretoria police moved quickly. Pistorius was arrested on February 14, 2013, charged with murder. The crime scene told a conflicting story. Our forensic expert Johannes Vermeulen testified the toilet door was hit with a cricket bat after the shots, contradicting Pistorius' claim he broke it to reach River. Ballistics showed the bullets were black talon, hollow points, designed to expand on impact, causing maximum damage. River was hit 3 times: hip, arm, head. The head wound was fatal, but she likely suffered for minutes, her lungs filling with blood. So, WhatsApp messages extracted from River's phone painted a troubled relationship. "I'm the girl who fell in love with you, but I'm also the girl who gets sidestepped when you're in a shitty mood." She wrote that on January 27, 2013. Another message that from February 7th read, "I'm scared of you sometimes." So neighbors, including Estelle van der Merwe, testified to hearing a woman's screams before the shots, not just Pistorius' cries after. The screams came before the shot, allegedly. The shots. But Pistorius' defense was unwavering. He claimed his anxiety, heightened by past break-ins and his mother's paranoia. She slept with a gun, drove him to act. And then a defense psychiatrist, Mariel Vorster, diagnosed him with generalized anxiety disorder, arguing he reacted in fight mode to a perceived threat. Yet the prosecution, that was led by Gary Nell, called his story a snowball of lies, pointing to inconsistencies like, why didn't he check for River? Why no response from her in the small bathroom? right? 4 shots and no sound. The investigation wasn't flawless. Detective Botha faced scrutiny, charged with attempted murder in 2011, unrelated case, and then was replaced by Mono. So there was also complication with the investigation officer. A herbal remedy, initially thought to be testosterone, was found in Pistorius's bedroom, further tainting the police's credibility. But the evidence, like the bullets, texts, screams, all pointed to one man, and also said it himself that I shot her. Anyway, the trial began March 3rd, 2014. A year later, in Pretoria's High Court, no jury sat. South Africa abolished juries during apartheid. So Judge Thokozile Masipa, a former journalist and the second black woman on the High Court, presided, with assessors Janet Hezendu-Toit and Themba Mazibuko. Since he's a famous guy, the courtroom was packed. Cameras rolling, the world watching live. Pistorius faced 1 count of murder, 1 count of illegal ammunition possession, and 2 counts of firing a gun in public. Jarinel, the quote-unquote pit bull prosecutor, was relentless. He argued Pistorius killed Reva in a jealous rage, pointing to her texts and the locked bathroom door. Why would she lock the door to use the toilet? Nell demanded. This is her boyfriend's house. Normally girls will not knock that door. He grilled Pistorius for 5 days, forcing him to confront photos of Reva's body, her blood on the tails. Pistorius sobbed, vomited, his voice breaking as he insisted, I made a mistake.
I woke up my lady in the early hours of the 14th of February. It was extremely warm in my room. I sat up in bed. Reva was still awake, or she was obviously not sleeping. She rolled over to me and she said, "Can't you sleep, my baba?" And I said, "No, I can't." And I got out on my side of the bed. I walked around the bed, foot of the bed. I was holding onto the foot of the bed with my left hand. I got to the fans, where the fans were. I took the small fan, the floor fan. I placed it pretty much just inside the room. I then proceeded to close the sliding doors and lock them. I then drew the curtains. It was at this point that I heard a window open in the bathroom. It sounded like the window sliding open. And then I could hear the window hit the frame, as if it had slipped to the point where it can't slide anymore.
What did you think at the time, Mr. Pistorius?
Well, lady, that's the moment that everything changed. I thought that there was a burglar that was gaining entry into my home. I was on the side of the room where you first have to cross the passage which leads to the bathroom. I think initially I just froze. I didn't really know what to do. I heard this noise. I interpreted it as being somebody was climbing into the bathroom. There's no door between the bathroom and my room. It's all one. There's a passageway, but there's no door. There's a toilet door, but there's no barrier between me and the bathroom. It's one room. I immediately thought that somebody, if they were at the window to where the entrance of the passage was, could be 3-4 meters. They could be there at any moment. And the first thing that ran through my mind was that I needed to arm myself, that I needed to protect Reva and I, that I needed to get my gun. And then I was looking down the passage. I was scared that the person was going to come out, or people were going to come out at that point. I rushed as quick as I could. I couldn't see anything in the room. So I ran with my hand out in front of me, at times touching the floor. And then when I got to my bed, I made my way along the side of my bed. I grabbed my firearm from underneath the bed, and it had a canvas holster on it. I immediately took it out the holster. At that point, I wanted to just get back to where the passage was, so I could put myself between the person that had gained access to my house and Reva. When I got just before the passage wall, I remember slowing down because I was scared that at that point this person, during the time that I got from that I'd left the amp to where I got my firearm, could have possibly already been in the passage, in the closet passage. So I slowed down and I had my firearm extended in front of me.
If I meant
just as I left my bed, I whispered for Reva to get down in front of the police. As I entered where the passage is, like where the closet is to the, where I entered the passage, where the closet is to the bathroom. It was at that point that I was just overcome with fear, and I started screaming and shouting for the burglar or the intruders to get out of my house. I shouted for Reva to get on the floor. I shouted for her to phone the police. I screamed at the people, persons, to get out us. Slowly made my way down the passage, constantly aware that this threat, these people or persons could come at me at any time. I didn't have my legs on. And just before I got to the wall of the, like where the tile starts in the bathroom, I stopped shouting because I was worried that if I shot, the person would know exactly where I was. If I put my head around the corner, that I could get shot. Just before I got to the passage of the bathroom, I heard a door slam, which could have only been the toilet door. I couldn't see into the bathroom at this point, but I could hear the door slam, and for me, confirmed that there was a person or people inside the toilet or inside the bathroom at that time. As I slowly peered into the bathroom, I could see that the window was open, saw that there wasn't anybody around the corner waiting to attack me. I retreated a little bit, maybe a step or two back, still with my hand against the wall. I slid my back and my shoulder to help me balance. At this point, I started screaming again for Reva to phone the police. I wasn't sure where to point the firearm. I had it pointed at the toilet, but my eyes were going between the window and the toilet. I stood there for some time, not sure how long. I wasn't sure if somebody was going to come out of the toilet to attack me. I wasn't sure if someone was going to come up the ladder and point a firearm in the house and start shooting. So I just stayed where I was and I kept on screaming. And then I heard a noise from inside the toilet, what I perceived to be somebody coming out of the toilet. Before I knew it, I'd fired 4 shots at the door. My ears were ringing, I couldn't hear anything. So I shouted, I kept on shouting for Reva to phone the police. I was still scared to retreat because I wasn't sure if there was somebody on the ladder. I wasn't sure if there was somebody in the toilet. I don't know how long I stood there for. I shouted for Reva. At some point I decided to walk back to the room because I couldn't hear anything. My ears were ringing. I couldn't hear if there was a response or not. I didn't have the phone on me. I walked with my hand out on the left-hand cupboards with my pistol still raised. I kept on shouting for Reva. I didn't hear anything. At this point, it hadn't occurred to me yet that it could be Reva in the bathroom. I still thought that there would be intruders that were possibly in the toilet or on the ladder outside the house. I retreated back to a point where I got to the corner of the bed. Put my hand out on the bed and I tried to lift myself up. I was talking to Reva. No one responded to me. At that point, I lifted myself up onto the bed and I placed my hand back to the right-hand side of the bed and I looked. I felt if Reva was there and I couldn't feel anything. The first thing I thought was maybe that she got down onto the floor, like I told her to. Maybe she was just scared. I can't remember what I said. I was trying to talk out to her and I kept my firearm the whole time. I moved along the bed. I think it was at that point, my lady, that it first dawned upon me that it could be Reva that was in the bathroom or in the toilet. I jumped out off the other side of the bed and I ran my hand along the curtains to see that she wasn't hiding behind the curtain. Felt around and made my way back up the passage just to let my firearm in front of me. At this point I was mixed with emotions. I didn't know if I didn't want to believe that it could be Reva inside the toilet. I was still scared that maybe somebody was coming in to attack me or us. I made my way back to inside the bathroom and I walked up to the bathroom door. I tried to grab the handle and rip open the door, push the door open, and it was locked. For the first time I turned around with my back facing the bathroom. I ran back to the room. I opened the curtains. I shouted from the balcony. I opened the doors and I shouted from the balcony for help. Scream, help, help, help. I screamed for somebody to help me. And then put my prosthetic legs on. I ran as fast as I could back to the bathroom. I ran into the door. I didn't move at all. I leaned back and I tried to kick the door. And nothing happened. I was just panicked at this point. I didn't really know what to make or what to do. I ran back to the bedroom where the cricket bat was between the cabinet and the door.
Were you screaming at that stage?
I was screaming and shouting the whole time, crying out. I don't think I've ever screamed like that or cried like that or screamed or I was crying out for the Lord to help me. I was crying out for Reva. I was screaming. I don't know what to do. I ran straight back to the bathroom door. I placed my fire. I don't remember, but I must have placed my firearm on the carpet in the bathroom. I ran straight up to the door and I started hitting it side. I think I hit it 3 times. The first time I hit it, I remember hitting. I hit the frame of the door and the shock in my hands. So I swung again and it hit a small piece open. I hit it hitting it side. I think I hit it 3 times. The first time I hit it, I remember hitting. I hit the frame of the door and the shock in my hands. So I swung again and it hit a small piece open. And at that point, all I wanted to do was just look inside to see if it was Reva. I then hit the door. I think I hit the door 3 times and there was a big plank. I grabbed it with my hands and I threw it out into the bathroom. I leant over the middle partition. I tried to open the door from the inside, but there was no key in the door. And I leant over the middle partition of the door, and I saw the key was on the floor. At that point, all I wanted to do was just climb into the toilet over the middle part of the door. Whilst I leant over the partition to get in, I saw the key, so I took it and I unlocked the door, and I flung the door open, and I threw it open. And I sat over Reva and I cried. And I don't know how long, I don't know how long I was there for. She was everything.
We're taking a journey. Cut to the
Barry Rocks, Pistorius' defense lawyer, painted a different picture. Pistorius was vulnerable, a double amputee in a crime-ridden country. His fear of intruders genuine. Rocks called witnesses like his friend Justin DeVaris, who said Pistorius was paranoid about security. A defense expert claimed the screams were Pistorius's, his voice high-pitched in panic. But the prosecution's ballistics and neighbor testimony were damning. On September 12, 2014, Judge Masipa delivered her verdict. That's over 11 years ago. She acquitted Pistorius of premeditated murder, finding insufficient evidence he intended to kill Reva. But she convicted him of culpable homicide, equivalent to manslaughter, ruling he acted recklessly. So on October 21st, 2014, she sentenced him to 5 years, a shockingly light term per prosecutors. Of course, South Africa was divided. Some saw a tragic mistake. Others saw a celebrity escaping justice. So of course, as in most cases happen, you have the appeals and the truth and this and this and this, you know. So the prosecution wasn't done. On November 4th, 2014, Gary Neal appealed the culpable homicide verdict, arguing Masipa misapplied. So it's like dolus eventualis. That is like a legal principle where intent is inferred if the accused foresaw death as a possible outcome and proceeded. So on December 3rd, 2015, the Supreme Court of Appeal agreed, overturning the verdict to murder. So Justice Eric Leach ruled Pistorius must have foreseen someone could die when he fired 4 hollow-point bullets through a locked door. Wow, mouthful. The case returned to Masipa for resentencing. On July 6, 2016, she gave Pistorius 6 years, added only 1 year, citing his remorse and disability. Prosecutors appealed again, calling it shockingly lenient. So on November 24th, 2017, the Supreme Court increased the sentence to 15 years from the 6, minus time served obviously, totaling 13 years and 5 months. Each appeal deepened the divide. Reva's mother, Joan Steenkamp, sat through every hearing, her face stoic, her pain raw. "I'm serving a life sentence," she said in 2024, after Pistorius's parole. The truth? Did he know it was Reva? Remained locked in his mind, as elusive as the screams in that night. South Africa's justice system was on trial as much as Pistorius. The case exposed deep flaws, sloppy police work, like Botha's oversights. It weakened trust. The lack of juries made Masipa's judgment carried outside weight. Thus, you see the many appeals that came after that. leniency sparkling accusations of celebrity bias or like gender-based violence, a crisis in South Africa. Over 11,400 femicides in 2013 alone, by the government data, became a focal point. River, an advocate against domestic abuse, became its symbol. The trial also tapped into racial and cultural fears, because Pistorius' defense leaned on the imaginary black intruder, a trope Maggie Orford critiqued in The Guardian 2014, reflecting South Africa's post-apartheid anxieties. So media coverage like SABC's 2014 special assignment highlighted missing white woman syndrome, noting disproportionate attention to Rivers' case over black victims like Zenele Khumalo. Pistorius, once a hero, became a mirror for a nation wrestling with violence, privilege, and justice. On November 24, 2023, a parole board at Atteridgeville Correctional Center, forgive my pronunciation, granted Pistorius release, effective January 5th of 2024 last year. He'd served 8.5 years of his 13-year sentence, plus 7 months of house arrest. Meeting South Africa's parole eligibility at half the term, he left prison quietly, avoiding media, moving to his uncle's mansion in Pretoria's Waterkloof suburb. His parole conditions are strict: no alcohol, no media interviews, and mandatory anger management and gender-based violence classes. Kind of like therapy, not therapy. And no leaving Waterkloof without permission. He'll be supervised until December of 2029. So as we speak right now, as this video airs, he's still being supervised. June Steenkamp accepted the decision but questioned his rehabilitation, saying, "No amount of time served will bring River back." Women for Change, a gender rights group, resurfaced River's texts, warning of risks to other women. Pistorius, now 38, lives in obscurity, his athletic career dead, his fame a curse. The Steenkamp family continues the River Rebecca Steenkamp Foundation, fighting domestic violence in her name. South Africa is a nation scarred by violence. In 2013, 45 people were murdered daily. The police data. Guns were a way of life, especially in gated estates where fear of crime loomed large. Pistorius' defense leaned on this fear, his disability amplifying his vulnerability. But the prosecution's case, rage, not fear, fit a darker pattern. South Africa's femicide rate, 5 times the global average, pointed to a culture where women, like River, were too often victims. Her WhatsApp messages that were read in court echoed countless stories. Fear of a partner's temper, arguments escalating. Pistorius' history, incidences like punching a door during a 2012 party, per witness Taylor. It suggested volatility. So the trial forced South Africa to confront its demons: celebrity worship, gender violence, and a justice system struggling to balance mercy and accountability. Why did he pull the trigger? Was it fear, as he claimed, or a moment of uncontrolled rage? The truth lies in a locked bathroom that we might never get to know. In a man who still divides a nation. The neighbors who heard the shots carried scars too. Dr. Johan Stipp, the radiologist, testified to Pistorius' anguish, but also to River's lifeless body. I still see her face, he told CNN 2024. Estelle van der Mare, who had screams, said sleep eluded her for months, the sound haunting her dreams. And the Steenkamp family? It bore the heaviest weight. Barry Steenkamp, River's father, testified in 2016, his voice breaking. I want him to pay for what he did. June Steenkamp sat through every trial, her silence louder than any verdict. My daughter's life was worth more than 6 years, she told BBC in 2024. These witnesses weren't just voices in a courtroom. They were lives reshaped by a tragedy that refused to fade. When Oscar Pistorius walked out of that prison, he left behind a nation still grappling with his crime. The villa in Silverwoods is empty now, its bathroom door long replaced, but the echoes of those shots linger. River Steenkamp, a woman who dreamt of justice, became its symbol in death. This wasn't a story of an intruder in the night. It was a story of a man who fired 4 bullets through a locked door, a woman who never had a chance, and a society forced to face its fractures. The greatest horrors don't always come from strangers. Sometimes they come from the person you love. Sometimes they wear the face of a hero. And sometimes they leave you wondering if justice was ever served. This has been Beneath the Rift. Thank you for listening, for walking with us into the places we'd rather not go. Until next time, keep your eyes open, because the truth is often closer than you think.